Today is a sad day for football fans with the passing of legendary goalkeeper Gordon Banks. And hearing that very sad news today, I immediately thought of a football programme that I have in my collection way back 1971-72. I can't remember it exactly because if your loft is anything like mine, I went up there and I couldn't find it. But it was Stoke City versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. Stoke is one of those clubs that I've been to, both their old ground and the new stadium as well. I couldn't find that, but while I was up there rummaging around, I did come across this. It's a Wolves home programme, and that's a goalkeeper on the front. That's Phil Parkes, but the game was against Stoke City, and there he is, the man himself, Gordon Banks. That was September 1972. And rummaging around up there, I came across this one as well. Ray Clemence, another goalkeeper that I've seen in action. And what about this programme? This one goes all the way back to 1968. And that's what the Wolves programmes looked like during that particular season, or several seasons in fact. Wolves against Sunderland, and who was the goalkeeper? It was Jim Montgomery for the visitors, who of course went on to feature in that historic and famous cup victory for Sunderland a few years later. Continuing to rummage around, he was on news this evening, paying tribute to Gordon Banks, fellow goalkeeper, Leicester City there, Peter Shilton. And the Wolves goalkeeper was again Phil Parkes. And then I came across a particular programme. This one goes back to 1971. Another Wolves one, that's the common denominator here. And it was against Norwich City at Molineux. And the goalkeeper was Kevin Keelan. Now, like most boys my age, when you grew up, you had a Subbuteo, and I had a Norwich City set in my collection, purely and simply because I like the colours. Do you know, there are so many people who support football teams now, they're older, and when you ask them, why did you start to support that particular team? And they'll tell you, because they like the colours or something like that. Well, I didn't support Norwich City, but I did like the colours. I got the Subbuteo team in my set, and I clearly remember Kevin Keelan on the end of that green stick that you used to move up and down in the goals. If you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then another Liverpool one, again, the same cover as before. This time round, 1968, it's Wolves against Liverpool. And another goalkeeper who is sadly no longer with us, that's Tommy Lawrence, who also played for Tranmere Rovers as well. And then I came across a programme that I've had in my collection for many years. This goes back to October 1973, and those were the years when Wolves used to qualify for the old UEFA Cup on many an occasion, and I used to go down to those games, jam-packed, great atmosphere, perhaps not as good as the 1950s and that fantastic Wolves team from there, but nevertheless for a youngster they were certainly good days. And I never realised at the time, it was only in recent years when I got this programme out to have a look, but who was the goalkeeper for the Portuguese team, OS Belenenses? It's none other than Jose Mourinho. Now, of course, 1973, it's not the Mourinho that we know, the Manchester United, Chelsea manager, or ex, should I say, in both those cases. Rather, it was his father. And all of those programmes and so many more that I could have pulled out. When you're a youngster, when you go to those games and see those people, you don't realise that you're actually watching legends in the making. At that moment in time that I saw Gordon Banks, of course, he was a 1966 World Cup winner with England, but it's only later that you appreciate that what you go through at that time, you go to the game, you watch the player, you enjoy the match. It's only later that you realise that you're making fantastic memories. Today's experiences become tomorrow's memories. I've seen those goalkeepers in action. Don't start me on the outfield players. I could be here for another 2 or 3 hours going on about the likes of George Best, Bobby Charlton, Dennis Law. I could take you through the Leeds team. I could roll them off from Gary Sprake, number 1, to Eddie Gray, number 11. Fantastic years, great memories. And as we get older, they're important. And talking of memories, when I was having a look around, I found a Sergio Tacchini top that I wore when I was 18 years of age. And I'll tell you what's the greatest miracle of all, it still fits me.